The first major trade of the 2025 MLB Trade Deadline just occurred as the Seattle Mariners are acquiring first baseman Josh Naylor from the Arizona Diamondbacks. After making the World Series in 2023 and falling just short, Arizona is using 2025 as a year to rebuild with a lot of impending free agents, Naylor being one of them, and ship them off to a Seattle team which is looking to go ahead and make a big playoff push for the first time in really their entire history. And with the need at the corner infield position, this is a perfect fit for the Mariners to improve there. The Mariners are giving away two pitching prospects back to Arizona in exchange for Naylor's services, and with the Diamondbacks in desperate need of pitching help right now, their top 8 prospects, according to Baseball America, are all position players. This will be a very strong boost to a Diamondbacks farm system that should allow them to go ahead and compete in 2026 and beyond as they retool their roster to hopefully go ahead and make another World Series, and this time win their first World Series since 2001. In this video, we'll dive into this trade, talk about the two players that Arizona are getting back as prospects, as well as see what Josh Naylor's impact in Seattle will be. Of course, it would mean a lot if you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You're going to get updates about all the major trades this trade deadline and the offseason, and then get more content like this, not only from me, but from other awesome baseball content creators out there as well. Without further ado, let's dive into this huge trade that really starts off the beginning of the MLB Trade Deadline season. Just 1 year after being the Marlins' first-round pick in the 2015 MLB Draft, Naylor was shipped away to San Diego in the infamous Andrew Cashner trade, where Colin Rea, who ended up being injured, and the Marlins claimed that they didn't actually know he was injured, ended up having a hold-a-back hole, and also was a trade that sent Luis Castillo, that's right, the Mariners star, from Miami to San Diego in the first place. He's then traded away again in 2020 after making his debut from San Diego to Cleveland, and this offseason on December 21st, 2024, the Diamondbacks acquired him for Slade Cecconi in their push to make the playoffs, which they are now going all in and saying we're not competing this year. Naylor was comfortable in Cleveland his first season being that pandemic-shortened season, didn't put up any positive WAR, same in 2021, but in 2022 things started to turn around, putting up 1.7 BWAR in 122 games, another really solid performance in 2023 before making the All-Star team in 2024 for Cleveland across 152 games. He absolutely raked 31 home runs, 108 RBIs. He was an amazing player for Cleveland in 2024, which is why they're able to trade him for a somewhat highly regarded prospect in Slade Cecconi at the end of the 2024 season from Arizona, and someone Arizona thought would help them make the playoffs this year. In 2025, things have been also very good for Josh Naylor. Only 11 home runs, but he's put up 1 BWAR flat with a 292, 360, 477 slash line. That's good for 124 OPS plus. And he's only struck out 49 times. He's very good with his eye. He's walked a total of 37 times. So his walk to strikeout rate is pretty good, especially for a first baseman that you think of more of a slugging type. Only 11 home runs so far this year, which is not on pace as his 31 home runs the year before. More on pace to 2023 when he hit 17, but he still has some pop in the bat and should be a very solid contributor for the Mariners. This trade has some really interesting opportunities for Seattle as their everyday first baseman, Luke Raley, hasn't been stellar to say the very least. He doesn't have any option years, so I wouldn't be shocked to see a DFA or maybe you're going to see someone get sent down. And the DH spot is definitely not as open. You have Jorge Polanco as your somewhat everyday DH, kind of balancing off with Cole Young, who was their first round pick in 2022, playing second base, DHing the days where Cole Young has a day off as a lefty. You also have Mitch Garver DHing, and when Cal Raleigh is not catching, he often DHs as well. So there is a little bit of a balance there where you might see Naylor going and playing some first base, DHing a couple days, but the Mariners do have a lot of players that they want in that DH slot, so I wouldn't be shocked to see him stick strictly at first base and only DH when they really want his bat in the lineup but want to give him a day off otherwise. The top-ranked prospect the Mariners are trading back to Arizona is Ashton Izzi, a right-handed pitcher who was their fourth-round pick in the 2022 MLB Draft out of a high school in Illinois and signed for a $1.1 million signing bonus, which is significantly higher than what you get out of most fourth-round picks in the MLB Draft, although the draft can be weird about signing bonuses and how much teams sign for. He had a little bit of struggle in the Arizona Complex League in 2023, but he did very well beyond that in Low A in 2024. And although he doesn't strike out a ton of batters, he does have a solid fastball, sits around 94, a little uphill ride, and he is projectable enough that maybe you can see him go ahead and grow a little bit more on that frame. He's 21, 165 pounds, 6'3", so I would not be shocked if he can bulk up a little bit and that velocity would go up, and he could be a very solid fastball mix guy. And he also has a slider, which is a little bit below average, and a changeup a little bit above average, and some solid control. Nothing out of the world, but he has enough control to be a starter long term if he needs to. Izzy's ceiling is likely as a fourth or fifth starter. He just doesn't have the stuff that would make him a super high ceiling guy. And with a little bit of lack of control, especially looking at his walks per nine, right now he's sitting at 4 walks per nine at high A Everett. Last year was 4.8 at single A Modesto. Not great. His strikeout rate is a lot higher this year, a 10.3 K per nine, which is definitely solid. But it comes with a 5.51 ERA, so there is a little bit of struggle across 41 and a thirds innings pitched. His walks and hits per inning pitched is also decently high at 1.56, so not great, but he definitely has the makeup, especially only at 21, to be a solid back end rotation piece. And if you can get a solid outing from a fourth starter, that's all you need in the playoffs. And Izzy has the makeup to potentially be there. The former Wichita State commit definitely has the potential to be a solid player for the Diamondbacks, and there's enough time for him to develop and mature and potentially be a good player for the Diamondbacks to build around as they go ahead and try and form their rotation in a couple years to contend in the long term. Given that Izzy's still in high A, I wouldn't expect him to make an impact at the major league level in 2025 or even 2026, maybe a late debut. I see more of 2027 being a target debut for Izzy, which could give them a nice, interesting piece as they go ahead and try and build some of those foundations of a World Series winning team. I don't see him being a high leverage bullpen piece if this starting thing doesn't fall through, just given the fact that he does have not great stuff. None of his pitches are really plus a wipeout slider or anything like that. His changeup's solid, but nothing there. So we'll see. There's still potential, but I think a starter, a back end starter, or a long reliever is more like Izzy's pass. The other prospect that's getting traded away in this deal is Brandyn Garcia, who at 25 was actually drafted after Izzy, 4 years younger than him. At 6'4", 225, Garcia has a very strong fastball and slider mix, a changeup that's okay, which has been useful for starting because you really kind of want a 3-pitch mix. But long term, I personally see him as a nice lefty reliever out of the bullpen, relying heavily on that fastball and slider, maybe the changeup as a mix of pace. And he's pitching currently at AAA, so he can make the jump to the major league level almost at any moment that the Diamondbacks now want him to. Garcia actually already made his major league debut. He's pitched 2 innings across 2 games, allowed 1 run, has struck out 1 across those 4 innings, and has walked 3. So not looking great at the major league level, but that's an incredibly small sample size. So that's not something you should really draw any conclusions from. A 3.5 walks per innings pitched during that time, yeah, it's a struggle. But again, 2 innings pitched is not a large sample size. So it's better to look at some of the minor league statistics to kind of get a better sense of what the Diamondbacks are actually getting. Even though he's made his major league debut, he's only pitched 8 and a thirds innings pitched at AAA to a 2.16 ERA. He's striking out 9s, and those numbers are roughly the same at AA, where he spent 25 innings pitched all in relief, a 3.96 ERA, 33 strikeouts to just 12 walks, which are definitely solid numbers. He's walked 5 and 8 and a third at AAA, so we'll see how that will actually work out in terms of his control. Neither MLB Pipeline or Baseball America have him as an exceptionally control-heavy pitcher. They have him about league average, if not a little bit below. And the former Texas A&M Aggie definitely has the potential to be a solid middle bullpen piece going forward. He has the stamina to start long term, though, as they let him pitch entirely as a starter in his first full season in 2024, and he led the Mariners organization in ERA with a 2.25 and 10.4 strikeouts per nine for qualified starters in the Mariners system. He has the potential to go ahead and be a long-term starter, but again, that lack of a changeup that is really dominant is kind of his downfall. The fact that he only has 2 pitches makes it really difficult to be a successful starter at the major league level. Most people have 3 when you end up as a starter. So I really do see him more as a middle of the bullpen, maybe a high leverage guy, but mostly as a medium leverage bullpen piece going forward, as a solid lefty who could really go ahead and make a difference. We'll see how that'll play out for the Diamondbacks, but I think this is a solid pickup for a team that is looking to have help now, and given that he's already made his debut, is at 25, and is pretty good at striking out people as a starter, and maybe not so much as a reliever. There's still a little bit of room for the Diamondbacks to try and bridge that gap, let him focus a little more on that fastball slider combo, and maybe a little bit away from the changeup, and see if they can unlock something out of him. The Mariners are a great pitching development organization, so the fact he's gotten that tutelage from them is definitely a plus to his development as well. Now that we've talked about all the players, let's actually give them a grade and see which team at right now, only a couple minutes after this trade broke, actually won and lost this deal. I'm going to give this a B plus for the Mariners. I think Luke Raley was one of the weaker points on the team, and you could see that Ben Williamson, Miles Mastrobuoni, Luke Raley, that corner infield tandem was really not holding together this Mariners team very well. All of them at the bottom of the lineup almost every week. They really needed some improvement there, and I think they got that. Raley and Williamson and Mastrobuoni are all solid pieces, but I don't know if you want any of them starting in your lineup every day. They're more rotational depth pieces where you have them platoon. The reason why this isn't a higher grade is because I actually think third base was a more important position for them to go ahead and make a deal on. And Eugenio Suarez is probably not getting traded till later on when the market has started to settle a little bit. But I look at what Tyler Locklear is doing in the minor leagues right now. He's one of their top prospects. He was the second round pick in the 2022 draft, and he is tearing it up. And obviously, there's reasons why teams keep players down beyond just service time manipulation that's not going on with Locklear, but I think he had a better chance of filling that spot, someone you didn't have to give up anything for, and then acquiring a third baseman like a Eugenio Suarez, maybe having to give up a little bit more, or going ahead and seeing if Ryan McMahon is available. I think there were some more interesting options where you could have gotten a little bit more value out of what you're actually acquiring. I think what they gave up is totally fair for what they're getting. So we'll talk about that with Arizona in a minute. But I really do think that third base was a little bit more of an important position for them to fill. There's not a ton of players right now on their 40 man who are able to fill third base. Samad Taylor and Leo Rivas are both in the minor leagues. Not players that I really love right now. Although Samad Taylor at 27 has done really well so far in AAA, but we'll see. I don't think he's a difference maker at the major league level. He hasn't been his entire career, but also just like Locklear, a very small sample size. Same with Leo Rivas. First base, I think, is a great. Now they've solved it. We'll see what they do to fix third base because Donovan Solano, Miles Mastrobuoni, Dylan Moore, if they decide to play him there, and Ben Williamson just aren't a great answer, especially when you're looking at the bottom half of a Mariners lineup and it just doesn't really look like we're getting a ton of value and success from that offensively. For the Diamondbacks, this trade gets a B minus. It's fine, but I don't know if anything's super exciting. And if I'm a Diamondbacks fan, I'm not loving this trade. I'm looking at I don't see a ton of upside out of either of the players they got, which is fine. You're generally targeting people you think can make an impact in the short term because you're not looking at your competitive window being really far out like you would be if you were maybe like a Miami. But I just don't know if there is that like really strong desire to have all these guys be the stars of the future. Josh Naylor expiring contract. You're not going to get a ton out of him. I understand that. And although the Mariners are a very pitching heavy organization, when you think of like who are their stars, it's their rotation, their prospects. You think of people who like Logan Evans, who skyrocketed through the ranks before making his major league debut recently. They have a lot of pitching development, but actually their farm system is full of a lot of young guys who are position players. They don't have a ton of pitching depth to deal from. So I almost wonder if they would have been able to get a different deal from another team. Obviously, we don't know, but I just sit here and look at Ashton Izzi. I look at someone like a Brandyn Garcia, and it just doesn't excite me. It's fine. That's why it's getting a B and not something lower, but I just don't know if I'm sitting here like, wow, this is a great trade for the Diamondbacks. That's my own personal opinion, and I think it's fine, but it's not as exciting as I would want it to be as a Diamondbacks fan. Again, on an expiring contract, you're getting less, especially from someone who hasn't had the year they had last year. But Josh Naylor is definitely a solid piece going forward. And to get this kind of value back is fine, but it doesn't necessarily blow me away. Thank you all for watching to the end of the video. I'm super excited to be covering this trade deadline season again. There'll be more videos while this comes from with all the trades this deadline. So please go ahead, hit that subscribe button. And there'll be a couple more videos on your screen. If you're interested, please go ahead and watch those. Thank you again for watching this, and I hope to see you in the very next video.